Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where today you join me in a bit of an unusual location, and that is because I am out in Nashville, Tennessee, driving the newly facelifted 2025 Honda Civic Si. There have been a few tweaks to this, things that it needed from the start that it now finally has. I just filmed my video for the Topher on this car, which you all will have seen a few days ago if you subscribe to his channel, but I figured while we're out here, why don't we film the rest of my commute back to the hotel, which is in the city center of Nashville, about 25 minutes from here, and see what the new Civic Si is like as a commuter. I'm sure we all know the answer to this question, as that is kind of the entire purpose of this car, is to be a commuter. It is a Civic at the end of the day, but it is fun to drive as well. We hit some back roads on our way to here, but now let's see what this thing is like in a very regular daily driving city setting. So while we're still on the exterior of this car, let's show you around some of the changes for 2025. For one, we have this urban gray paint job, which was the same color on the Acura MDX that I drove down here. So a color that is kind of showing its face among the entire Honda and Acura lineup. Unfortunately, gone is that really cool orange color that we had up until now. You now only have 4 choices of colors: gray, white, black, or red. So if you are an enthusiast of colors, red is your only choice now for the Civic Si. We also have a slightly revised front fascia. Our headlights stay the same, but we have a new upper and lower grille and front bumper as well. Kind of a consistent design among the entire Civic lineup at this point, but I think it looks quite nice. We have some slightly different 18-inch wheels, as I think the older Si wheels were a bit too similar to the wheels you got on just the regular Civic Sport. In fact, they may have been the exact same wheels. These are now unique to the Si. We're running on some Goodyear Eagle F1 summer tires today on a 235/40R18 squared setup. Usually not the biggest fan of Goodyear tires, but after ripping this thing on a back road, these are pretty sticky and they're not too loud either. As far as commuter car essentials go and being practical, the Civic Sedan, which is what the Si is based upon, does this whole thing quite well. We have a very good amount of trunk room back here. Not quite as much as you get on the hatchback, but still plenty of room back here for stuff. The Civic has gotten quite large, but it feels even larger on the inside than it looks on the outside. So these seats do go down. You get a 60/40 fold as a pass-through if you want to stick some stuff in here. But overall, as far as practicality goes, it is quite nice. We'll take a look in the back seat, and we'll sit back here. And being that this is a hot Honda, we have a bit of a mismatched interior going on. The main focus of these cars is always the front compartment, so the front seats, the front door panels, and the back seat is usually never invested in. So we have some very plain looking door panels, and the only indication that this is an Si is some red stitching in the back here. But the biggest compliment I can give this car is just the amount of legroom and headroom and just overall room in this back seat. I mean, we know the 11th gen Civic has quite a roomy interior, and of course nothing has changed for 2025 as this is just a facelift, but I still wanted to show you guys the immense amount of room back here. Fold down cup holders. We don't have air vents. There's not really a ton going on back here, but that is because they saved all of their money for the front seat. So we'll show you that in just a second. But before we do that, let's pop the hood and we'll talk about what is still powering this facelifted 11th gen Civic Si, and that is of course the 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine with VTEC. It makes 200 horsepower, 192 pound-feet of torque, and power is sent to the front wheels through a limited slip via a 6-speed manual transmission. Now that is your only transmission option on this car, and I think that's proper, because there are plenty of other Civics you can have with an automatic. Save the enthusiast one, give it a manual only. Here is our engine. Not a whole lot to look at here, no engine cover, just kind of an honest looking engine bay, as I like to say. 0W20 oil for this thing. This car is super fresh. It doesn't even have 100 miles on it yet, so we are, I suppose, in one way or another, breaking it in today. Super early VIN. This is car number 35, super early off the line. I don't think this is a prototype. Pretty sure this is a full production model, so we'll be able to evaluate build quality and everything like that. But let's go ahead, jump in, and we'll start our commute to downtown Nashville. We had to do it. I mean, we have all of our Michigan videos and everything we have to kind of take advantage of when we're in other cities. Our front seats are awesome in this car. I always love Honda Civic Si and Type R seats. They always go all in to give us these really nice performance front seats. Unfortunately, the back seats do suffer because of this, but really cool, kind of like checkered black and red design. Same thing that we saw in the pre-facelift car that came out in 2022.
Do you have car problems, hon?
No, I'm just filming a video. Thank you so much, though.
Okay, I didn't know if you had car problems. I would take you over to the auto place
Oh,
over there.
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay,
Have a
good.
good one. Thank you. Bit of Southern hospitality there. We love to see it. The design of the seats themselves are unchanged, but what has been changed for the 2025 model year, I will show you once I jump in here. And realizing now I have to start the car to show you what that change is. Really cool animation there from our cluster. These front seats are now heated, which is a complaint that a lot of Civic Si owners had because that was not even an option. A lot of the times what Honda does is they spec out a car and that's pretty much it. I mean, the only thing you can really choose is your exterior paint color. And the story is the same now, but they've given you a number of other standard features in this car. We've got heated seats. We still have our Bose sound system. We have this new infotainment display with wireless Apple CarPlay. This is not standard on all the new Civics, but it is on the Si. We have 10.2-inch wireless CarPlay, like I said. It's a Google-based system. That is kind of the biggest thing here, is that this is a very smooth and quick infotainment system. So no complaints with that whatsoever. I've got my phone connected wirelessly right now, but if you wanted to wire in, you could do so via these new USB-C ports that we have right above our little phone tray. No wireless charger, but it's a grippy enough surface to where your phone won't move. And in front of us, we have another change. This now has the gauge cluster from the Civic Type R, which means at the top, we have these shift lights as well as an audible shift beep when it is time to change gear. Really cool to see a little bit of Civic Type R influence here in its baby brother, the Si. So you'll see those once we get out on the road. They don't light up if you're just revving stationary, so I won't bother showing you those now. Otherwise, very nice materials carried over, nice design. I love the interior of the 11th Gen Civic. When I drove it for the first time, gosh, what's it been? 4 years, probably 4 years ago at this point. It's been so long. I love this long continuous design of this kind of simulated vent and real vent over here throughout the dashboard. Very easy to aim. Vents, S-tier vent placement, and then a physical climate control panel with very nice clicky knobs. I like to see that with the facelift, they haven't really gotten rid of anything that we already loved with the 11th Gen Civic. They have just added to it, which I really do like. So let's throw the seatbelt on. I don't really think there's anything else to show you up here. We have a moonroof, but that is just about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my destination into the nav and we'll set off and we'll commute this to downtown Nashville. Destination is set, about 27 minutes to the center of Nashville. I'm a big fan of Nashville. I love the music, the culture, everything there. So let's go ahead and get on our way. The fuel economy has been a bit degraded from my drive here. The Civic Si is rated 27 in the city, 37 on the highway. So we're averaging 23 right now, and that was with some hard back road driving. So we'll see if we can't improve upon that a bit here on our little city commute. But let's go ahead and throw this actually into reverse first, just to show you the reversing camera. Not super clear, but it gives you parking lines, helps you place the back of the car a little bit better. And as far as manual transmission cars go, this is one of the nicest to drive, and not just because it's easy to drive. I mean, you could put somebody in this that is not super familiar with manual. It'd be a good car to learn on, but it's also very satisfying. Very easy to row through the gears on this 6-speed. Adjust our mirrors just slightly. Now, there have been a number of other changes kind of under the skin of this Civic Si. Not everything is on the surface and visible, but Honda's kind of gone in and they've tweaked some of the body rigidity. They've added some strengthening to our B-pillars, our rear door sills, the strut mounts, some other suspension mounts and bushings and things like that. Just kind of give this car some strengthening that it needed and make it a little bit safer, but also better to drive. I'll link that video in the description if you guys want to see this thing move on a back road, because it was quite a good time. But you know, overall with this car, it's subtle improvements, but all of them were meaningful in my opinion. We still have the same auto rev matching system in this Civic Si that we saw in the pre-facelift car. The only difference now is it will rev match your 2-to-1 downshift, and it does so quite smoothly. We'll show you that once we make our next stop in the journey, but nice to see that. Sometimes you want to slot yourself into first if you're coming up to a stop sign or something. Makes everything nice and seamless. On this fully digital cluster, we can customize what we have on here. On the left-hand side, I have my music. Of course, we've been listening to some Lord Huron today. That'll be cycling through on the left-hand gauge pod. On the right, you can customize a number of different things. Trip, you can have your instructions from your navigation. It's nice that it pulls that from CarPlay. We can have a boost gauge. That's cool to see. G meter, lots of cool stuff in here. See that rev match there into first. No auto wipers on the Civic Si. We do have a number of different intermediate settings we can toggle with it. But if you opt for a higher trim sport touring Honda Civic, you do get auto wipers. You get a number of other adornments in the interior as well. But the Civic Si has moved up. It has some of the options that only the higher trim Civics had before. So we love to see it because the Si is kind of a nice choice in the segment. I mean, it starts below $30,000, $29,950. So for the price of a Civic Sport or a Civic Touring, whatever costs 30 grand. It's like whatever the mid-grade Civic is. You can have one that's fun to drive, and you don't have to sacrifice as much as you did before to get the Si. So I really appreciate that part of this new 25. And it's decently quick. You kind of got to rev this thing out to get the most out of it. But it's one of those cars that's kind of fun to drive no matter what you're doing. If you're driving 25 in a city center or carving back roads at 75, 80 miles an hour, you're going to have a good time with this car. And that's not because it's fast, it's because it's engaging. The steering feel in this thing is excellent. It's quite a bit heavier than the steering on a regular Civic, as you would expect, but it's also more direct. You really have a good idea of what's going on with the front end of this car. The rev matches are absolutely seamless. Civic Si brother, front bumper on that thing has seen better days for sure, but he's still driving it. Why'd they get rid of orange? I'm a little bit sad about that. Orange was a very iconic Civic Si color, so maybe it'll come back. That's the one thing they took away that they shouldn't have, was the option to get orange. Oh yeah, that car has been loved. I bet it has like 300,000 miles on it. We do have auto stop start on this. You can defeat that by pressing this physical button to the left of the shifter. We've got 3 drive modes in this car: normal, sport, and individual. You can toggle your steering feel, your engine noise, and your gauge cluster. So we'll play with those once we get up here a little bit more, but I've got my individual mode set to everything sport except the engine note. He is getting it in that thing. Let's go catch him. This is flat out. See our shift light there. An audible shift beep. love to see that Civic Type R. A little bit of kit here in the SI. miles an hour, we're revved just below 2,500 RPM, which explains why this is rated at almost 40 miles to the gallon on the highway. Quite an efficient little thing. Very tiny little zippy engine, 1.5 liter. Kind of the only downside to this car is the interior noise, and that has been somewhat improved with other facelifted 11th gen Civics, not so much with the SI. Also, in the effort to save weight in this SI, it does weigh below 3,000 pounds still for 2025. You know, we don't get the same amount of sound deadening that we would get in a higher trim car. So I'll give you guys a sec to observe our NVH. Brakes just slightly. Man, this would just be the perfect spot for a speed trap right at the bottom of this hill. Do not want to participate in that, please. Thank you. Honda's also gone through and recalibrated some of our driver aids, the lane keep assist, the adaptive cruise, things like that. They've been tweaked for 2025 to feel a bit more natural, and I'll give them that. They have made it feel more natural. We'll demonstrate that once we merge onto the highway up here. Drop a couple gears. Can't hear it, can't feel it. It's all just seamless. Let's bump ourselves up into sport for this entrance ramp. We are the 4th Civic in this line of cars entering. Look at that, 2 10th gens in front of us, and that orange SI all the way up in front. Hear a bit of that piped in noise while we're in sport mode here. At cruising highway speeds, you're going to be hovering somewhere around 3,000 RPM. I love the dodgy nature of this car in highway environments. It's so fun to switch lanes. It's almost like a game. It's so much fun. Okay, well, while we're just kind of cruising here on the highway, let's test out our adaptive cruise and everything like that. So pretty easy to toggle on, just a bunch of buttons here on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. And we can set this. We'll turn on our lane keep assist. Jump over for just a second. Let these people merge. Okay, we can also adjust our following intervals. We'll set that to the nearest distance. You can see here on the cluster as well, the car will tell me when it is applying the brakes. So I know if I'm lighting up the taillights for the cars behind me. Get these wipers off. But the nicest thing is the car doesn't feel nervous when you're switching between lanes like it did before, and a lot of other cars do, even in 2024, 2025 model years. So with this being a very freshly implemented tune almost on this, on all of these driver assist systems, it does feel very fresh. It feels very natural. And it will still rev match while you're in cruise control. You can shift gears just like normal. I think we'll just hang out over here. We'll talk about what comfort is like in this 2025 Civic Si. And here's the thing, okay? While these seats look very nice, while they are heated, they're a bit hard, and this is no surprise. I mean, you should never expect a sport seat to be plush and the most comfortable thing in the world, but what I'm feeling with these seats is that they are quite supportive, and they hold you in nicely. They have good bolstering and things like that, so that gives me hope for actually sitting in these on a long distance trip. Actually, if you're curious what it's like, I mean, Tedward has a number of videos on what it was actually like to own this car, so he'd probably be able to give you a better idea of what these seats are like. But just under first impressions, after sitting in these seats for probably about an hour and a half today, I'm really not super fatigued. I don't know that I want to go more than like 2 or 3 hours in them, but they seem to do a pretty good job. Exceptionally clean XJ Jeep Cherokee there. Wow. I'm always like that when oh, don't change lanes into me, please. Thank you. I'm always like that when I'm down in the South. I'm like, holy crap, that car is so clean. Look at that. That's so clean. It's rust-free, because up in Michigan, everything is rotted away to nothing. So it's a treat to see some of the old 80s and 90s and even early 2000s cars. Something just hit the roof of the car off of this truck or something. It's cool to see some of these surviving cars that just simply cannot survive up north in the Rust Belt. You've got decent torque from this 1.5 liter to where you can leave the car in 6th gear and still execute your passes. You've got to kind of do pedal to the metal action to do it, but even if you do want to drop into 5th or something, with this auto rev matching, it's easy enough to do so that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't take anything away from you. We're going to turn off our driver aids. We'll just kind of naturally drive here on the highway for a second. But all of those are quite nice, and they feel kind of at a caliber above the Honda Civic, and that is a big thing across the entire Civic lineup, is how much nicer these cars feel than like everything else in the segment. And that's as far as the way they drive, the materials inside, apart from the fact that this one has some kind of rattle behind the dashboard. I have noticed that, but otherwise it's very, very well put together. And this is a very early car off the line, so we'll give them a little bit of grace as far as build quality goes. Get some air up onto our camera here. We are going to be exiting here in just a second, coming up the last 7 minutes of our drive. And before we jump off the highway, let's talk about ride quality. Now, this is something that's usually quite difficult to do with a hot compact like this, because of course you want to split the difference between this being able to commute, as we're doing right now, but you also want it to be sporty. You want it to be fun to drive on a back road. Honda split the difference pretty well. This is a firm ride in this car. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's firm, but it's not crashy. It's not going to shake you to pieces. And the fact that we have 18-inch wheels, which they could probably stand to be an inch smaller or so, and you could do that in the aftermarket, throw a set of RPF 1s on this or something. But road manners of this car, they're nice. It's comfortable enough. I don't really think I would expect this to be any softer than it is. Quite livable, and I'm really happy with this car. I just like changing gear because it's engaging. It doesn't really make the best noise in the world or anything like that, but we'll go into individual mode, which all of our sports settings, but no piped in engine noise or anything like that. Also, I'm just realizing we didn't really do a poll in this video, so I'll stick in a clip now from the TheTopher video so you guys can see what it's like to push this Civic Si to the limit. We are exiting onto Broadway. Check that out. I do kind of wish these animations would go away faster than they do. They stay on that screen for a bit too long, especially when you go into individual. If you're on your nav screen, you want to see what's going on, you lose it for a little bit too long. Obviously, we would have cars blocking the intersection. It is the Grand Prix this weekend in Nashville, which means It's raining. Well, it's not raining because of the Grand Prix, but it's raining, it's chaos. So not the most enjoyable Nashville experience, I don't think, but we're doing it nonetheless. In a city setting, you know, plenty of maneuverability with this car. The steering is a good enough weight to where you don't feel like you're lugging this thing around the city center. It's a perfect size. Well, we are in downtown Nashville. How about that? Oh, and that person just littered. Did you all see that? They just threw a wrapper out their window. Big no-no. Big no-no. Ooh, a Cayman. All right, well, as we approach the hotel, I suspect valet is just going to take this thing from me, so we probably won't be able to do a proper, you know, outro walk around like we normally do. So we'll just go ahead and start to wrap this thing up now. A very solid entry into the hot compact market, as we saw in 2022. That's not new news. What is new news are all of the worthwhile additions that Honda has made to this car. I mean, I am just thrilled with everything that has been added. The heated seats, the Type R cluster, the unique wheels, all of it just works so well. So, I mean, do what you will with that information. Make sure you go over to the TheTopher channel. I'm going to link that video in the description. That'll give you an idea of what this thing is like to drive on a back road. That was a whole lot of fun, and I really hope you guys go and watch that video as well. But that's just about going to wrap it up for us today on our little commute to downtown Nashville. Love this new Civic Si, and I'm excited to spend a little bit of time in one once we are back at HQ in Michigan. How many of these lights am I going to have to sit through? City driving. At least this is an easy manual. This is not a frustrating manual to drive in low speed settings. But with that, why don't we just go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we will see you very soon in the next one. Take care. Cool. Now Honda will take it from here. There is a McLaren. Very cool.